What is elitism or elitist philosophy of education in the context of instruction, assessment, classroom management, and curriculum? Why do we need elitism in education? To answer these questions, let me walk you through this ism. Good morning to our professors and classmates. Let me discuss to you the key concept related to elitism. Let us see the definition of elite education. According to meritocratic definition, elite education take place in institution or programs characterized by highly selective recruitment of students based on a scholastic merit. According to a social perspective, elite schools or programs are considered those that contribute to the intra-generational reproduction of the current dominant groups by educating and training their offspring. We know enough about our ancient past to be able to say that most Asian civilizations, once they were big enough to have cities, had elitism. Human civilizations have always had power relatively concentrated in the hands of a few, and the elite have often received that status from parentage and wealth, although with many exemptions. At times, the strongest, smartest, or boldest individuals have been able to raise themselves to elite status. In some societies, priests, intellectuals, and or artists have had the potentials to gain elite status, although usually only in the cooperation with the political and economic elite. Now, let us define elitism and elite. An elite is a relatively small group of people with the highest status in society or in some domain of activity who have more privileges or power than other people due to their status. Elitism is the belief or notion that individuals who form an elite having high intellect, wealth, power, notability, special skills, or experience are more likely to be constructive to society as a whole and therefore deserve influence or authority greater than that of others. There could be an infinite number of types of elitism. There are elite musicians, comedians, surgeons, physicists, athletes, and encoder, as well as the economic and political elite. But we will focus only on two types of related to education. Types of elitism. The curriculum design and develop keeping in view of the different types of elitism in our country, and it should be reflected in curriculum at every stage. Number one is academic elitism. The idea that people with high academic qualifications are better than others or that they should be given special privileges. Also refers to the fact that students who graduate from high status school have better job opportunities than students from lower status schools. Second is intellectual elitism. So the tendency towards academic elitism is noticeable in some education system, particularly in developed countries. More attention and resources are afforded to students who are deemed most intelligent at an early age. On the other hand, intellectual elitism, an idea that certain individuals had been endowed with intellectual prowess above beyond the average person. For example, the intellectual left wing insists that evolution, not creationism, should be taught in school. An intellectual elitist is one who has background knowledge about a subject and whose claims are supported facts. Those without the necessary and relevant knowledge often claim that those with knowledge are elitists. So now before we continue with the discussion, let us reflect on this question. Could elitism be the best thing for everyone? Well, there are always two sides of the coin, and to be fair, let us understand the stand of those who are in favor of this philosophy and those who are not. Pro-elitism on a rational basis make two claims. Number one, that the existence of some kind of elite is necessary for successful society. And number two, that it is better for us if people with superior breeding, intelligence, and education have that elite status because they will make the best decisions anyone could make. Anti-elitism make two claims. Number one, that power corrupts, that elite groups will always use their power for selfish ends, rather than doing the best for the rest of us. And number two, that it would be possible to run a healthy society without elite privilege if people of all different types were cared for and educated and empowered properly. At the end of the day, the answer that we could really looking for could be this: in reality, we shall probably continue to see our society move in both directions at once, which means we need to consider both points and meet at the middle. What is elitism in higher education? The gap between elite universities and standard ones. Elitism in education has been there since time immemorial. It has been part of the curriculum whether we like it or not. It's just that it is not pronounced, or which is not highlighted really because of the issue of inequality and opposite of education for all, which our government is trying to promote. So in most countries, there is not one channel of a higher education but two: graduating from a prestigious university, and the other one is graduating from a standard university or local college. The gap between these two educational options was not always pronounced, but in the last decade, there has been a huge increase in the intake of tertiary education in most countries, referred to as massification. With this came an increase in heterogeneity in higher education. While the old established universities maintain their standard level, new universities formed to take in the new mass of students. These new universities are usually of a lower academic level. The overall increase in tertiary enrollment lead to a rise in enrollment rates in standard universities, not in elite universities. Two main differences between this type of universities: the quality of education and admission standard. In the quality of education, students from an elite university get a better education leading to a higher productivity, and admission standard, students need very high score on entry exam to enter elite universities. So this two main differences between this type of universities. The first is the quality of education. There's a huge difference in the budget per student of elite universities versus the standard ones. And this difference leads to a difference in the quality of education. The result is that students graduating from an elite university get a better education, leading to a higher productivity. The second main difference between elite and standard universities is the former higher admission standard. Students need very high score on the entry exam to enter elite universities, but need only a high school diploma to enter a standard college. So the two elements that define elitism of higher education are the ratio of quality between elite and standard universities, and the degree of competitiveness of the selection process. This is based on the study of Bresis 2018. Elitism in instruction is evident also based on these merits. More attention and resources are afforded to students who are the most intelligent at an early age. This inequality tends to further separate the elite from the remainder of society. Streaming systems include branded institutions, gifted classes, and other elite students group. Countries with extensive private school system also exemplify this trend. Students are instructed to formulate their opinion, ask questions, research, and use the information to apply to their context. These are all critical thinking skills that can apply to all situations and stages of life. Now let us proceed in the context of assessment. Students are assessed based on this rigorous study of or a great accomplishment within a particular field, a long track record of competence in a demanding field, an extensive history of dedication and effort in the service to a specific discipline, example, medicine or law, or a high degree of accomplishment, training, or wisdom within a given field, a high degree of a physical discipline. The assessment in elitism is dependent on your test scores, scholarship based on the merits or special skills that you possess. In the terms of classroom assessment, state-of-the-art facilities or equipment are available to them. Teachers are also provided with a wide variety of materials to be used for quality assessment and instruction. Now, let us proceed to the classroom management. Managing the environment is dynamic. Managing the class is easy because the class size is small, thus it is manageable. All sorts of technology or resource materials are readily available to students. It is student-centered, innovative, and efficient. The last but not the least, in the context of curriculum. In developing a curriculum, whether a specific subject area or more broadly, as the whole range of offerings in an educational institution or system, a number of difficult decisions need to be made. So the content of the curriculum and the aims and function of schooling based on the needs or interests of those students who were academically inclined or were destined for elite social roles, treat the curriculum of an educational institution as a vehicle for furthering the socio-political interests and goals of a dominant group or any particular group, validity of the justifications that had been given for excluding particular subjects or topics in the offerings of formal educational institution. To know more about elitism, these videos are helpful. While preparing for my report, I came across with this quote by Mortimer Adler. The best education for the best is the best education for all. A food for thought that we need to digest in relation to elitism. If only the educational system is truly working at the student advantage, then education will be inclusive and the social divide is minimized. So these are my references. I hope you learned something from my report. Good day and thank you.